As the title suggests, I'm going to tell you how you can improve your microphone settings inside a free program called OBS. Alrighty, so go ahead and open up OBS. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure your microphone settings are up to date. So let's do that first. Go ahead to the start menu and type in settings. Now you're going to want to go to sound, scroll all the way down the bottom and click more sound settings. This is going to open up a window like this. You're going to go ahead to recording and find your microphone, double click on that, head over to levels and make sure it's on 100. Now jump back into OBS and click on the gear icon next to your microphone and then click on filters. The first setting we're going to look at is the compressor. Now go ahead and activate the compressor by clicking the little plus icon and click compressor here. It'll go ahead and add something like this. The settings are going to look different than mine, so let's go ahead and change those. So ratio, change that one to 4, threshold to -25, attack to 2 milliseconds, release to 100 milliseconds, and output gain to 5. Now, from my understanding, the threshold is the point where the microphone starts to pick up some audio. So you're going to want to play around with this. What you need to do is basically slide it all the way to 0 and take a look at your actual microphone bar here. So what I'll do is I'll just start to slide it backwards and you'll be able to see that the green, my voice, is starting to get lower. So what you need to do is move it to the right to the point where it starts to show in the yellow. So for me, I'm going to go -30. So I've just altered my threshold. Now for the output gain, same thing, but in the opposite direction. So this is going to get louder and louder and louder. We want to move this down back into the yellow. So mine was set on 5 and I am going to probably move it down a little bit, maybe a little bit further up. Let's set it back and put it to 7 this time. So what you need to do is you really need to play around with your microphone and make sure the threshold and the output gain, make it so that your microphone audio stays within the yellow. All right, the next filter we're going to add is called the expander. Essentially what the expander is it limits the background noise that your microphone picks up. So any sort of keyboard noise, aircon, fan, you name it, any sort of constant noise that's going to be going on in the background while you're recording. So go ahead and pick expander, set the ratio to 4. My threshold is set to -30. The attack is set to 2 milliseconds. The release is 100 milliseconds and the output gain is 0. So just like the compressor, you need to work out how much background noise is actually getting picked up by your microphone. You will roughly set your settings to mine, but if you've got a louder fan or a louder aircon, just sit in silence to the point where your microphone isn't picking anything up. So you can't see any green on the microphone bar here unless you're speaking. So have a play around with the threshold and the output and go from there. The next thing we're going to add is called the VST2 plugin. Now you will have to actually download a plugin itself. I will link that in the description down below. Once you download it, you will need to actually install it. And then what you need to do is actually close out of the filters little setting section and reopen it. This will allow you to have access to this plugin here. What you need to do then is click open plugin interface while that one's selected and you'll be given a bunch of settings like this. Now you can go ahead and play around with the settings yourself. I simply have just used a preset and I'll show you how to activate that preset. Essentially this is your lows, mids and highs of the microphone and each microphone will be a ton different. So we're going to go ahead to session bank and we're going to select the brighter and bassy and click activate and close. The next setting we're moving on to is noise suppression. Now you'll have one or two options. If you have a lower quality PC, you will have this setting. If you have a higher quality PC, you'll have this one. If you do have the lower setting, mess around. I usually kept mine at -30 decibels, but have a play around. Mine, however, I can access the RN noise, which is for higher quality CPUs. So I'm going to do that because it automatically suppresses background noise for you. Now, the last setting is the limiter. So essentially what the limiter does is it stops your microphone from peaking above a certain threshold. It's just an automatic setting. Here we're going to do -3 decibels and 60 milliseconds. Now, of course, with all tutorials to do with webcams and audio and everything in the mix, you will need to have a play around with these settings yourself and work out what works best for you and the microphone you have. Of course, if you you've got a Rode podcaster like myself, will probably have very similar settings, but do take into consideration the background noise that you can hear in your microphone. If you're looking to improve your webcam picture in OBS, then go ahead and click the video on screen now if you're wanting to improve that quality immensely through just a few simple steps in OBS. Other than that, guys, I'll leave you here. Thank you for watching the entire video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.